welcome to Friday Film Reviews. I got a few films to talk about this week. Don't really feel like making this video, to be honest. I'm just not in the mood for it, but gotta get it done just because, you know, it's a good record to keep. The films I've watched over the week. So I'm going to try and blast through a few of them quite quickly. The first one is Carrie. And these are all films from 2013. Carrie, starring Chloe Grace Moretz and Julianne Moore as her mother. I haven't seen the original film from the 70s with Sissy Spacek in full. I've seen bits of it. So yeah, I don't know how it stacks up to the original, but they didn't hold back, especially towards the end, and there's quite a lot of violence in it, and you know, the stuff you'd expect knowing the story of Carrie. Again, I've not read the book either, so I'm not quite sure again how true it was to the original story and all that kind of stuff. I thought the first 20 minutes or so were a bit overdone, like, you know, Carrie was a bit like, too shy, and, you know, I mean, it was just seemed a bit overdone, and then like after that point on it seemed to be a bit more realistic. Well, as realistic as you can get with a film dealing with telekinesis. And I enjoyed it. It wasn't fantastic, it wasn't great, but it was decent, enjoyable. The main kind of antagonistic girl in the film was just such a psycho bitch. Again, so I don't know if she was like that in the book or the 70s movie, so I can't tell whether they overdid it or not, but it was overdoing it a bit, I think. But you know, decent movie. Next, Jackass Presents Bad Grandpa. It is what it is. Interesting framing device of using the kind of traditional Jackass public stunts and kind of using it as scenes of a story and having a kind of narrative where this grandpa is taking his grandson across the country to go live with his dad. Of course, Johnny Knoxville in the old makeup that they've used countless times in the Jackass shows and movies. And I thought it was really funny. I quite liked it, and I enjoyed the concept. I thought the kid was fantastic. I mean, can't be like older than 10, 11, 12, probably even younger, I'm not sure, to be honest, but he was just brilliant, like going into all these public situations and speaking to adults with such confidence and being funny as well was just amazing. And that scene we've all seen in the trailers where he's kind of at a beauty pageant and he strips off his clothes and he's in a bra and stuff and doing all these dance moves, and he's just like, yeah, the kid was brilliant. Some good stunts and stuff, some good pranks. Some of them were hit and miss. Some of them went a bit too far, not too far as in like, oh, that was offensive, but just they took it too far. It didn't really need to, and it wasn't that funny. In particular, I'm thinking of that scene where he shits up the side of a wall. If you've seen it, and you know, you can't have a go at me for spoiling something like that. You know, it is what it is. It was you know, decent fun. Then I watched Captain Phillips, the Tom Hanks movie, which has been getting rave reviews and, you know, really critically a big success. Tom Hanks plays Captain Phillips. It's a true story from 2009 where this cargo ship taking cargo from one part of Africa to another part of Africa gets hijacked by these pirates, I guess you could say, these Somalians. And it's the first time an American ship has been hijacked in over 200 years. And it's basically all about that kind of that situation, the hostage situation, and everything that goes along with it. I won't spoil anything, but Tom Hanks, particularly in the last 20 minutes, was fantastic in this. And the African actors, or the actors playing the Africans, I know one of them is from America, although he's originally from, well, I'm not sure, but anyway, the actors who played the Somalians were great as well. One of them I just wanted to punch, and if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, that tall bastard. Oh, really just gripped my shit. I hated him. The lead Somalian was great. He's actually been nominated for a BAFTA award. Not sure if, you know, people are saying he was amazing. I'm not sure if I thought he was amazing. He was very good and he felt very, I guess that's probably the mark of a great actor, to do something and make it feel like it's real. And he definitely felt like a real situation and a real character in that kind of situation. But yeah, great film. Blue Jasmine, Woody Allen's latest film. He seems to be cracking out a film every year. You know, for a guy his age, it's pretty impressive. And yeah, he just seems to make a film, get it out there, move on to the next one. He just keeps churning them out. Written and directed as well. Well, obviously directed, but he wrote this film, and I love that. You know, he's a great kind of writer director. Well, you could kind of say, you know, are all his films great? But he always writes his own stuff and is very kind of true to his own kind of style of filmmaking, I think. And I really enjoyed the acting in Blue Jasmine, but I wasn't a fan of the story. I couldn't really relate to Jasmine in any kind of sympathetic way. She was really kind of quite a ghastly character actually. Kind of a socialite who was kind of getting over this kind of traumatic event that took place in her life involving her husband, Alec Baldwin. She's now moved in with her sister in San Francisco, played by Sally Hawkins, who has been nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the BAFTAs as well. Cate Blanchett has been nominated for Best Actress also, and it's pretty much a shoo-in that should be nominated for the Oscars for Best Actress. And I agree with that because I think her performance was amazing. But the actual film, the story, I couldn't really kind of watch it and love it. I just kind of was impressed by the acting. That's about all I can say about it really. But I liked all the actors in it. They were all great. That's it really. It's just a film with great acting in it and great writing too, but just the story, it just didn't really interest me that much. I couldn't really feel any sympathy towards Jasmine at all in the movie, but you know, it was a really good film. Filth, starring James McAvoy. I'm a big fan of James McAvoy for about 10 years now. I think it was January 2004 that Shameless first premiered in the UK, and he was in the first 2 seasons of that. The best 2 seasons in my opinion. I stopped watching it after about season 4, or series 4. He was brilliant in that series, and I remember being surprised when I first heard him talk that he was Scottish, because he does such a good, convincing English accent. And then of course we see that he's a fantastic actor, and he's gone on to do many films, loads of films lately in fact. I mean, he's now in the X-Men franchise, First Class, upcoming this year, Days of Future Past. He does a lot of drama films, he does period dramas like Atonement and films like that. And yeah, I'm just really glad to see him taking roles that are really different. I mean, he was in Trance also in 2013, which was a great one. This was a really fucked up film. Everyone's comparing it to a mix of Clockwork Orange and Trainspotting, and I'm just going to have to go ahead and agree with what other people are saying, because that is kind of what it is, and it's also based on the book, I forget his name now, but the guy who wrote Trainspotting. So it's a similarly fucked up story, and similarly fucked up subject matter you're dealing with. McAvoy plays this cop who is this completely corrupt guy who he does drugs, he drinks, he abuses his position sexually, he sleeps with these women, prostitutes, cheats on his wife, and his wife and his young daughter are not present during the film. Although we see glimpses of his wife in certain scenes which are quite interesting, and it kind of works into the story later on, and you gotta kind of wait for it to kind of sort itself out, and kind of, you know, it's like a bit of a jigsaw. Not too much, but a little bit going on there. And there's some really surreal scenes. He has hallucinations. His best friend in the film is played by Eddie Marsan, who I'm a big fan of, and he's kind of really just abused by McAvoy's character. I forget his character's name now, but he just kind of really treats this guy like shit, and he just keeps being his friend basically. And there's just some real fucked up things in the film in regards to sex and violence and swearing, and it's really quite a vile film, but it was just so compelling, I guess, and really kind of the last 20 minutes was like someone was just squeezing my stomach, just like real sense of dread, like what was going to happen and where was he going to go. And I thought his acting was fantastic. I think he should have been nominated for awards, because he did a great kind of schizophrenic kind of 2 sides to the personality kind of performance, and I just think he's an amazing actor in general. But it's too much of a, again, too much of a I don't know, a graphic film, I guess you could say, to be considered, I feel. But you know, it is what it is, and it's set in Scotland, which is good, so we can use his Scottish accent. And some other good performances in the film. Jamie Bell's in it. Oh, what's his name? Jim Broadbent is in it, in a weird, really weird kind of role. Again, Eddie Marsan. Some great actors in the film, but McAvoy just steals it, and not one to watch with the parents or anyone in the family, I have to say. And the ending was really interesting, and I kind of loved it, even though it was really horrible. Not to give anything away, and I've read what happens in the book, and the book is far more fucked up than what they did in the film, so they toned it down and it was still quite dark. So yeah, definitely one to check out, because I don't think many people have seen it. Didn't get too much exposure last year. Next, Enough Said, a romantic comedy, I guess you could say. Julia Lewis, or Louise Dreyfus, the woman from Seinfeld. She stars in it as a middle-aged woman who is she's a masseuse, and she meets this character played by James Gandolfini, and they go on a date, There's a bit of a spark there. Initially they're not attracted to each other, or she's not attracted to him, and then she kind of gets charmed by his personality. She also meets a new kind of girlfriend who she becomes her masseuse, played by Catherine Keener. So she has this great new friend and a great new boyfriend, and everything's going great. And then I pieced it together pretty early on that James Gandolfini was Catherine Keener's ex-husband, who she talks very badly about to Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. So you know, a bit of a dilemma there. And it went the predictable route where, you know, she didn't say anything to either of them and kept on being friends with her and going out with him. And of course it all kind of, you know, collides near the end. That part of it was predictable, but it was a really well acted film. The chemistry between the two was fantastic, and was made a little bit more poignant by the fact that he passed away last year, unfortunately. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Connie watched it with me, and it was just a good film. The ending was good as well, just kind of didn't tie everything up neatly as you would expect in a film like this, and just a nice note to end it on. Really enjoyed it. And second to last, Stories We Tell. This is a documentary by Sarah Polley, a actress, filmmaker. She does all sorts of stuff. I've not really seen any of her work, but I looked it up because I was quite impressed by this film. It's a documentary about her family's life, and in particular her mother. And her mother passed away many years ago. And we see a lot of home movie footage of her mother and her family, and she basically interviews her whole family and all these people who knew her mother about her mother and about this story, which unravels throughout the film and gets more complex, and we see more of this kind of bit of a dark, secretive past that her mother had. I think I'm overselling that. It wasn't a dark, secretive past, but she had a pretty big secret that came out later on in life, and kind of changed a lot of things in her family. So it's a very interesting documentary. The idea of it is that the Stories We Tell title, the idea behind it apparently was that she was interested in how when people in a family or just people in general tell a story, and then you have someone else who was part of that situation, they tell the story, and it's different, you know, people remember things differently, and things become fictionalized, and that was how it was sold to me when I first watched it, and I didn't feel like that was really the focus. Maybe that was when it was originally intended to be made, but there was only a bit of that. There was only a few discrepancies, really. It was mainly about a mother, really, and her father. And her father was a really interesting character, and he wrote a short memoir about the whole story. And she gets him to sit down in the studio and talk and read it into a microphone, and his voice is like, it's almost like a Morgan Freeman type, where everything he says sounds so old, weathered, but sage at the same time. I could listen to him read anything and it would just sound awesome. Really great kind of character voice. Yeah, and an interesting character as well. But I really enjoyed it. There was a cool thing about the home movie footage that factored on later into the film that I quite enjoyed and was interested in. And towards the end, it really does just kind of, you know, break the fourth wall and really talk about itself as a documentary and how she started to put it together. And I thought she put it together in a really clever way. Really enjoyed it. Great documentary. Finally, the last film I watched last night is a Korean film. Matakis Latui, you son of a bitch, you did this to me. He said on Facebook this was his favourite film of the year of 2013, and he's a big fan of Korean cinema, so he recommended me a film last year called Memories of Murder, which I watched, excuse me, and I loved. So I thought, wow, this is going to be more of the same then. So I put it on, and it's available on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube, and it's got English subtitles. Where do I start with Miracle in Cell 7? Miracle in Cell number 7. It's about a mentally challenged man who is caring for his daughter, a young daughter, and how much detail do I go into? He is wrongfully imprisoned for the rape, molestation and murder of another young girl, which he didn't do. But he's put into jail anyway, and this is in 1997. And the film kind of takes place in the present, but it kind of flashes back to this time. And he's put into prison with these other cellmates, and you know, they hate him because he's done this horrible thing. You know, the wardens hate him, the guy who runs the prison hates him, and I think it's disgusting. they soon begin to realise a guy of his intelligence, you know, probably didn't have, you know, in him to do something like this, and they soon figure out that he is actually innocent. And his daughter, the little actress who plays his daughter, is just like heartbreakingly adorable. Like when she's happy and smiling, it's just like the cutest little girl ever, and when she's sad and crying, it's like the most devastating thing ever. She was amazing in this film. Great little actress. I mean, just stole the whole thing as far as I'm concerned. But the actor who played the main guy was brilliant as well. And I loved all the cellmates that he was in. He was in a cell with about 6 or 7 people, something like that. They're all colourful characters. And my main issue with this film was that it was so good, but it was just so oddly balanced, because it's a comedy drama. And it opens up and it's a bit funny, and then it gets into this girl dying and it gets super serious and really sad, and then he gets to the prison and it becomes almost like a slapstick comedy with all these cellmates and their little quirks and everything, and it was just like, it's just so offbeat, you know? And then it gets really serious again and really goofy again, and the main thing was the soundtrack. The soundtrack was almost a bit like a Mr. Bean movie at times, and then it would get really, you know, serious with a nice piano piece. Very oddly balanced. I don't know whether it's just because I've never seen anything like that before, or whether it just really didn't work in terms of the balancing of it. But I don't know, and it kind of frustrated me because the rest of it was so good. And also there's quite a few logical leaps to be taken. Like, why would he this, you know, obviously slow person, be allowed to take care of his daughter? Because, you know, as we see when he's kind of caring for her, when he's not gone through all this stuff, a very brief part of the film at the beginning, you see him caring for her and stuff, and then going out and going home. She's almost like the parent in the relationship, and later on we also learn that she would go down and pay the rent and stuff to the bank, and she's like this little 6-7-year-old kid. So again, that was a bit of a logical leap, and then there's other things, like literally towards the end, a bit of a flight of fancy in my opinion. And then, not to spoil things, but later on, you know, the warden realized, the main kind of, the guy who runs the prison, realised that he was innocent, and he begins to care for the daughter and take her into his home. He allows these visits where she'll go actually into the cell with them, and it just seemed like that would never happen. But I mean, I guess not within, you know, out of the realms of possibility, but there's quite a few logical stretches in the film, and you have to kind of surrender yourself to them, I think. And I was able to surrender myself to them because the acting was so good. I thought that, again, the main actor, the little girl, the actress who plays the little girl when she's grown up, as a, you know, in her early 20s, I guess, was also fantastic, especially in this one scene. Oof. And it was just, it really was the most emotional film of 2013 that I've seen. One of the most emotional films I've ever seen. It was a bit like a film that your nan or your mum would watch, you know, on TV, on like the Hallmark channel or something like, you know, the ones I'm talking about, where it's just like, you know, a 2-hour TV movie about someone dying of cancer, that kind of thing, where they just watch it to have a bit of a cry. And it felt a bit like that, but it was just so fun when it was funny, and it was so gut-wrenching when it was so dramatic. And I can't really not look past its flaws and just focus on how great the acting was, and how much of a joy the happiness in the film was, and how devastating the drama was. For me, an absolutely brilliant film. And I could definitely see almost anyone watching this and saying, you know, as I just said, it's imbalanced, the tone is weird, it's not really, you know, logical, but fuck it, you just gotta go with how you feel when you watch a film, and it really made me feel a lot. And, you know, if I wasn't really struggling, I was looking away and, you know, coughing and stuff. If I hadn't, I really would have got the tissues out and been like, just absolutely bawling my eyes out probably. So yeah, Miracle in Cell Number 7, brilliant movie. And that's it for this week. Thank you for watching. I know I said at the beginning I wasn't in the mood to make a video, but I'm quite happy I got this done because there was a lot I wanted to say about that one in particular. And I'll see you next week.
He says he's really cool, but I think he's a tool. Even though I'm sure he's a quite nice guy, really. He's a quite nice guy, really.